Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And some huge news coming out of Wisconsin. We know Wisconsin, it was one of those dates where a lot of questions were raised during the 2020 election, and some shenanigans took place, and Wisconsin citizens have been actively trying to take back their elections in that state, town by town, district by district. They're working to bring back the sanctity of voting back to their districts and not shipping out the votes to a central location to happen, tabulated. And so, where we're starting to see some grassroots actually have some winning battles, we would like to go ahead and highlight those and celebrate them, because it's very important that we do this at a local level. We've talked about local elections prior on this channel many times of how important these local elections are. In order to fix what's been taking place in our nation, it has to start at the grassroots and at the local levels, because they have been infiltrated by the communists. They've been infiltrated by these globalists whose sole purpose is to destroy this nation from within. So let's get and dive into what we have here. And it says Wisconsin Township votes to process votes in a poll and polling place where it votes where voter resides, denies elite opportunity to manufacture votes at central count voting center. This is pretty huge. And this taking place in a township here. Wisconsin activist Jefferson Davis sent us the good news from Wisconsin to end the year. Jefferson writes, "Great news from dude. I've tried pronouncing this word right here for the last 5 minutes. And I don't think I'm going to do a very good job. I'll do my best. Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, where I reside at the village board, is voting to eliminate central count voting, and it's returning the process of absentee ballots to the polling place where the voter resides. I am forwarding you several more screenshots of this breaking development. Thank you for your friendship, leadership, and courage to continue to print the truth. This is huge news coming out of this township, where they are taking back control of their elections. They will no longer hand over to counting, sorting, managing, and processing of ballots to a central voting center where they sacrifice the sanctity of their ballots to hidden dark figures. They are taking ownership of their elections, and they're taking control of their elections. And here's the meeting notes. If you want to check these MIDI notes out, you can. They'll be in the description down below. But this is huge coming out of Wisconsin. This is what we need to see throughout the rest of the country, especially those states that had a lot of questions back in 2020. Places like Pennsylvania, for example, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Virginia. I mean, there's a lot of states that have a lot of shenanigans going on. Best way I can describe it right now. And this is a perfect way to take back the precious thing of voting and returning it to the people, versus sending into these mass ballot senators and just allowing those people to sort the ballots and to make sure the ballots are all good before they say, oh, look, this is a Republican ballot. They won't miss this one type of deal that goes on in places like this. And we see that coming out into like the Kari Lake lawsuit that continues to move up in the courts, and it's going to probably be Arizona's Supreme Court. And they will be looking at that much closer, possibly redoing that election. So we'll see what takes place. There's also the Secretary of State election there in Arizona as well. Big news coming out of that one, too. So lots to do, lots to be hopeful for as you continue to dive into the grassroots in your own community, taking back the centers, taking back these institutions that should never been given away to the communists. And some significant news: quickly release Donald Trump's tax returns or cause some sort of disturbance somewhere, because we need a distraction, is probably what the deep state is currently saying. They want to distract your attention because they don't want you to find out the truth, or at least to take a look at some of the House documents that are currently being released involving the January 6th committee and an individual known as Ray Epps, and of course the mystery that surrounds him. But we're not so tunnel vision or not so one-track minded. What I'm going to do is both will talk about this whole Trump tax return bombshell. What it really is of course yet again another nothing burger, more harassment and bad legal precedents set by the corrupt establishment. But we're not going to let it distract from this January 6th House committee document that just released, suggesting that the reps' conspiracy theory, well, might not be a conspiracy theory. After all, you guys are not gonna believe this. And trust me when I tell you, the mainstream media does not want you to see this document. They don't want you to find out the truth, but I rather enjoy the truth. Alright, folks. So take a look at what Benny Johnson just posted on his social media on January 6th. Ray Epps texted his nephew, I was in the front with a few others. I also orchestrated it, and this is from an official document select committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the interview of Ray Epps on the 21st of January 2022. And this is a text message pulled from his phone. Who is Dallin Epps? First of all, he is my nephew. He's 28 years old. Okay. And we can scroll down just a little bit to the middle of the page. Alright, perfect. So it looks like at 9 o'clock in the morning at 9 a.m., your nephew texts you, "You and Jim be safe." And then at 2:12 p.m. on January 6th, you text back, "I was in front with a few others." Quote, "I also orchestrated it, folks." This is at 2:12 p.m. If you know anything about the timeline of the Capitol, this is right around the time the Capitol was being breached. This is around the time where Donald Trump was being briefed on what was going on, and Donald Trump was being pressured or being told to release a public statement telling people to go home, which he did around an hour later. And we now have official text message evidence on the record during the House Committee's investigation of Ray Epps, where Epps himself said, quote, "I orchestrated it. Don't you find it real convenient that the whole January 6th committee, all the hearings, all the interviews were public primetime television, especially the nonsense that we saw with Cassidy Hutchinson, but the real questions that people had surrounding Mr. Ray Epps, his involvement in why he was totally ignored or let go by the FBI, his investigation when Mr. Ray Epps' interview with the January 6th Select Committee was done privately behind closed doors. Could it possibly be because they didn't want the public to see this because it would destroy their precious anti-Trump narrative? Donald Trump is the target, of course, of orchestrating the coup, that insurrection. Here we have Mr. Ray Epps admitting that he, in fact, at least in his own words, orchestrated it at 2:12 p.m., and of course, the coping left-boids in the comment section are suggesting that this is fake news. You're avoiding all the context. Here's an anonymous leftist Twitter troll responding, "This isn't the confession you want people to believe." It is the very next lines. "This is the exact same time of the video that I just played. Help us understand this text. What did you mean by orchestrate? What did you orchestrate?" Reps then responded, "I just meant that I got you have to understand our relationship, uncle-nephew. We hunt together, we fund with each other, we do that kind of stuff. What I meant by orchestrates, I helped people get there at that point. I didn't know that they were breaking into the Capitol. I didn't know that windows had been broken. I didn't know that anybody was in the Capitol." If I answered him, "That means I was on it to 12. I was on my way back to the hotel room." Well, there you have it, folks. Fact checked by the left-boids, except not at all, not even close. Really, this anonymous Twitter user responded to Benny Johnson with, "This is not the confession that you want people to believe. It is." Well, my response is, this is not the fact check or the debunk that you think it is. Reps claims that he was just headed back to his hotel room at the time and that he was just playing with his nephew. When he said that he orchestrated it, he was just playing around. I mean, come on, guys. But of course not. We have video evidence. The only thing this is proof of his Reps essentially perjuring himself. He was Reps on multiple occasions egging on the crowd and calling on people to siege the Capitol. They were even chanting as they called him a Fed when the Capitol was sieged. He was literally on the front line orchestrating it. That is the video evidence adding context to his claim. It wasn't just a joke between him and his 28-year-old nephew. It was a statement of fact. It was an account of events during the day. Of course, none of this is new. The text messages are new, of course, which just adds to the credibility of the claims involving Mr. Ray Epps. The question is, why the inaction from the January 6th Select Committee and the FBI? Why the focus on Donald Trump as being the key figure who orchestrated this coup or this attack on the Capitol, which of course, there was no evidence to back up that claim? Why is there a criminal referral of Donald Trump to the DOJ and not this guy who is on the record and on video recorded actually orchestrating the events of January 6th? How is it that non-violent protesters, people who were just present, people who merely existed during January 6th, are being treated as domestic terrorists and being held in confinement without bail? Meanwhile, this guy isn't even the target of the investigation. Not to mention, this guy clearly perjured himself and lies to Congress and claims that he was on his way back to the hotel room. It's all one big lie. But he's not getting charged with lying to Congress now, is he? No, of course not. Because that charge is specifically reserved for people like Roger Stone and others. Meanwhile, anyone associated to the Democrat establishment, anyone pushing the deep state's narrative, gets to lie all they want under oath and simply get away with it. Whether it's Peter Strzok, Anthony Fauci, I mean, the list just goes on. They can lie all they want, even friggin' Michael Sussman recently getting off for essentially the same thing, lying to the FBI, misrepresenting evidence, providing falsified evidence to the FBI and Hillary Clinton's grand scheme to frame Donald Trump as a Russian traitor criminal. And of course, they all get to walk free without any consequences. That's the question that we should be asking. This is possibly the most interesting thing that has come from the January 6th investigation thus far. If the Democrats want to have you believe that their narrative is flawless and not to be questioned, that Donald Trump can extend his arms 12 feet grabbing the steering wheel of the presidential limo or presidential SUV, wrestling with Secret Service agents to try to turn it around as he leads the January 6th insurrection like friggin' Braveheart up the Capitol steps. It's all one big joke, and the same question remains: who the hell is Reps? What's his connection to the DNC, the RNC, and of course, the FBI? And how is he still walking free with everything that we know about his actions? And his involvement in actually instigating violence and instigating a crowd on the day of January 6th, with all the video evidence, and now with the text message evidence, how is it that he is still walking free? What is the connection that is allowing this to happen? And of course, how is it connected to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer's refusal to send 10,000 National Guard troops on the day of? How is it connected to Capitol Police unlocking magnetic doors? How is it all connected? Those are the questions that I would like answered. And was Republicans taking over the House in 2022, or rather, in January 2023? The question I'm asking myself is, are they going to do something about it? Are they going to launch an investigation just like the Democrats did and actually get to the bottom of what really happened on that day without chasing an anti-Trump narrative, actually getting to the bottom of it, actually getting to the truth? We'll have to see. Of course, once again, another conspiracy theory seems to not be a theory whatsoever, and it's not exactly surprising at all. Thank you for joining me. Let me share some info with you. Hopefully share it with your friends and family. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA